Now, authorities report the first gunfire came in around 3:30 Saturday afternoon. That's when witnesses say a man dressed in black, wearing body armor, looking similar to a police officer, began walking through the mall property here, firing indiscriminately, sending thousands of people running for cover. Authorities tell us a police officer that was responding to an unrelated call heard that gunfire and ran towards the sound, immediately engaging the gunman, shooting and killing him. But in the moments before police arrived, we are told that hundreds did whatever they could inside this property to survive.
So we ran to the back, barricaded it with some concrete bricks, and then right then on the security camera, thank God we went in the back at that time, we saw him walk right by, masked up, fake police outfit on.
That was the scene of the Allen Premium Outlet Mall shooting, which took place in Texas and took the lives of 8 people. So Stephen Spanhauer gave his eyewitness account of the events that transpired directly after the shooting. Let's watch.
This could happen anywhere in the United States. It could happen to you. It could happen to you. Okay, and we're not immune from it. And last night I was processing a lot of emotions. I was heartbroken. Today I'm mad. Mental health didn't fire that gun. Okay, those people were killed with bullets. I saw the bullets. Okay, that's what killed those kids. Maybe he had a mental health issue. Maybe it was treatable. But if that gun wasn't on the streets, he wouldn't. Chances are he might not would have had access to it.
So that same man, Spanhauer, described the carnage that he witnessed himself after rushing to the scene. He got a call from his son saying there was a shooting at the mall. Here's what he said. At least 3 victims could not be saved even after he applied CPR. The first girl I walked up to was crouched down, covering her head in the bushes, he recalled. So I felt for a pulse, pulled her head to the side, and she had no face. He helped a boy who was under his mother's dead body. When I rolled the mother over, he came out. I asked him if he was okay, and he said, my mom is hurt, my mom is hurt. So rather than traumatize him anymore, I pulled him around the corner and sat him down. The boy was covered from head to toe in blood, Mr. Spanhauer said. He said what he witnessed on Saturday will haunt him for the rest of his life. He said, quote, no one can see what we saw today and not be affected by it. He said, it's not a situation I would wish upon anybody. It's just unfathomable to see the carnage. This was one of the victims that Spanhauer mentioned. This is a tweet. Thank you, Job and News, for putting a name with a face. I was there when we loaded her onto the ambulance. This is heartbreaking. Ashwarya will forever be 27, is what Jobin said. So Spanhauer gave another interview with MSNBC and explained that the issue isn't mental health as much as it is the weapons used to kill the 8 people. Let's watch.
I don't know what the gunman's problem was. I don't know his motive, but it wasn't mental health that killed these people. It was an automatic rifle with bullets. That's what killed them. I'm a gun lover. I have guns. I'm a former police officer. I'm a former Army officer. But these M4s and AR-15s, they've got to get off the streets or this is going to keep happening. And we've got to stop that at some point. It could be you. It could be your family member. I never imagined it would be me. I never imagined it would happen in my community. But it did, and we've got to stop this type of carnage. And all the politicians are going to make statements. They're going to offer prayers and condolences. Prayers and condolences won't bring these people back. We need some action in our legislatures at the federal and state level for better gun control. And I'm saying that as somebody who loves guns.
Yeah, that message is coming from maybe not the typical person we would hear it from. And I can relate to it. I'm somebody who uses guns as well and believes, yeah, we all should have the right to have guns, but it's common sense in the United States to have these background checks and red flag laws. And these are popular policies among the American people. And we still have representatives in Congress that are not representing the American people. If the policy is popular, they should pass it. We know there's a lot of lobbying that goes into why they don't. But where do you fall on this, Waz? How do you take his comments about mental health and his experience of the shooting?
I mean, it's hard for me to say, right? Like in a lot of ways, this culture around guns is pretty foreign to me. I'm born and raised in New York City, where as everybody knows, they're extremely strict gun laws, right? You're essentially not allowed to have a gun if you are not a cop. Or they make exceptions for like store owners and stuff like that, cash carrying businesses. But for the most part, basically 99% of citizens cannot own a gun. So a lot of the affinities and the culture around guns are something that are a bit foreign to me, if I'm honest. And as I see things, when you hear how people who do care about guns talk about it, this feels like something that people are not going to part ways with, right? I don't think a gun abolition is on the horizon. So what I will say is that how about we try to create a society that doesn't produce these alienated, just mentally unstable young men, because let's face it, it's always a freaking guy who's doing this. Maybe we should try to have a society that doesn't produce this level of alienation, right? Maybe we should try to have a society where people feel rooted and connected in their communities and don't go out and just do senseless mass killings of random people. I think maybe we should try to work towards that. I don't see a way forward on actual legislation or actual regulation of deadly firearms. There doesn't seem to be a mass appetite for it. So maybe we can do something else, which is produce better outcomes for our people.
Yeah, I think it's definitely fair to say that it's not something that our current Congress would pass. It's hard because when I think about any policy, it's like if this is popular with such a vast majority of the public, them not doing it is just so anti-democratic. But there's this narrative that they push of like, oh, well, the left wants to take all of your guns away. And that's just like never been something that's proposed. It's certainly something that I'm sure some people believe. We would like to live in a society without guns, but no one has proposed a complete gun ban or buying back guns, a policy that we saw in Australia, where estimates show that with the amount of arms we have in the United States, which is more than one per person in the United States, it would take years for a buyback to be effective and get guns off of the street. It's just like not a viable policy proposal. And so I think you're right. Like the best next step is to say, all right, if members of the right who don't want to pass any gun control believe it's a mental health problem, let's address it. We need stronger social safety nets. We need stronger communities. I think that's like really the response. And I think maybe this message coming from this guy will make some people who thought about the issue in a different way see it a little bit differently. I think the messenger matters. But at the end of the day, I think we need to move towards better mental health care in the United States and producing a society where people just don't want to commit mass harm. It's been pointed out before that if someone wants a weapon and wants to hurt people, they will. Do assault rifles make it easier? Yes. Are we going to need to work with what we've got when it comes to Congress? Also, yes. Like we can't just wave a wand and live in a magic world, unfortunately, that suits our needs when it comes to public safety.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty skeptical on the idea that a guy browbeating people on TV could actually be effective. I think people are so skeptical of what they see on TV that counts as news. Obviously, we're not talking about TYT. We get busy over here, but the sort of huge corporate media conglomerates that produce news for people, I don't know that they're capable of persuading people in that way. That's why, and I know I hate taking a defeatist attitude about changing hearts and minds. I just feel deep down that we would be better served by just trying to get people to understand that their life has meaning, and that going out and killing people for no reason whatsoever should not be something that they think is a viable option. I know that sounds obvious, but obviously it's not. We have these shootings all the time.
Yeah, to me, it feels like an attack on society. Like I think back to when serial killers became a thing. The way they investigated murders is, okay, who had motive, means, and opportunity? And then with serial killers, it was random. They were killing people that they didn't know, they had never met. And now we have these mass shootings, and it feels like an attack on society itself. And we really need to think about what's going on psychologically when it comes to that. But I think you're right that there's gonna be people who watch this and they're like, oh, you can't just put a guy in a cowboy hat and say the same gun control stuff and think that we're gonna believe it. Like there's definitely gonna be people who are so skeptical of this just because it's coming from mainstream media. I think you're totally right.
My thoughts go out to the people and the families who are affected. Like it pretty much doesn't get more traumatic than this as a tragedy, a life tragedy. And so my heart goes out to all of those people.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating. The detail of the reporting that we got from what this scene was like directly afterwards, I think is important to have that conversation about just how gruesome it truly was. I think shielding the public from that kind of makes people apathetic and less likely to pay attention to it when it does happen and understand the gravity of these mass shootings.